Sunday morning, rain is falling. Share some covers, share some skin. You're hanging with the Broward brothers. Sorry that the podcast's late again. How's it going, everybody? My name is Wyatt.
And I'm Rhett.
And you are with the Broward brothers. We are so sorry that this episode is coming a tad bit late. I got a migraine, and we're pretty lazy in general.
Just generally pretty lazy.
It takes a while for us to get around to stuff, so the minor roadblocks that come up in our life can derail the whole operation.
Yes.
Anyway, guys, we're coming at you hard once more.
Via microphone, coming at you hard.
We're in your room, we're in your head, we're in your car, and we're going to implant some ideas about movies that you might have never thought before. Like, perhaps, iRobot is good.
Yeah, who would have thought that?
Not Will Smith. Probably not Alec Tudyk after the whole thing.
Not me. I watched this movie maybe a year ago, and I was like, this movie is dummy. But I watched it 3 times this week. And every single time I was like, this movie's not bad.
I watched this movie at work. That's how good it is.
Yeah.
I prioritized it over money.
I'm going on record. iRobot, good.
iRobot, I'm in.
I'm in. Fully in.
For those of you who don't know what the hell we're talking about, iRobot is a movie that came out in what year, Rhett?
2004.
And it stars who?
Will Smith.
And who else?
Bridget Moynihan.
And?
Alan Tudyk.
There we go. The star.
He is the star.
And it's a dystopian, futuristic sci-fi film that discusses the fears of technology.
Of specifically artificial intelligence.
Very topical stuff.
Yeah, I think we watch a lot of sci-fi because I feel like we've done a lot of movies about sci-fi.
Which is weird because when growing up, I was always like, oh man, fantasy's better. Fantasy's so much cooler. But in reality, I watched 10 times more sci-fi movies than fantasy movies.
For sure, yeah. Sci-fi and superheroes.
Yeah. It's a hot day in LA, so if you can hear our perspiration, our panting, we apologize in advance. But we're going to get right in to the summary of iRobot.
It is 2035, only a few years from this very moment, and the world has undergone a series of rapid technological advancements. Set in Chicago, the already large city has maximized to a nearly unrecognizable amount, with Lake Michigan seemingly drying up entirely. However, though there is a lack of water and other things we hold dear, there is no shortage of robots. The robots clean the streets, construct and destroy buildings, and do most of the things that would ease the lives of the average person. The most popular robots are the NS series, a home-dwelling bot that are designed to do whatever you want, whenever you want, unless it violates one of the 3 laws.
Law 1. A robot may not injure a human being or, through inaction, allow a human being to come to harm.
Law 2. A robot must obey orders given it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law.
Law 3. A robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law. But despite the irrefutable programming of the robots, it seems as if someone or something has broken those laws. Falling dozens of floors from his office to the lobby of USR's River North headquarters, the designer of all things robots has been found dead. Though staged to look like a suicide, the prime suspect of the scientist's death is none other than one of his own creations. A member of the newest model of robots, the NS5, these bots are designed to look, act, and seem slightly more human than ever before. A big issue that I have with certain sci-fi movies is they don't give us enough time to actually prepare as a society to live up to the expectations of the sci-fi movies. Back to the Future was 2015.
Yeah.
And there was hoverboards and shit. And then this movie's 2035.
It came out in 2004, so they allotted themselves 31 years
to become ridiculously advanced. Like, was there flying cars? I think his car floated.
No, well, the cars, they weren't flying. They were, instead of having wheels, their wheels were spheres, and were omnidirectional.
Oh, that's
the way they could drive. But they auto drove, and they could auto drive at
hundreds of miles.
160 miles an hour is how fast he was driving in Chicago, like underneath the city,
Mm-hmm.
where I don't know. He's driving 160 miles an hour. I don't know where the hell he's driving from, but if he's going 160 miles an hour, he could get through downtown Chicago in like
half a second.
4 minutes, like really quickly.
Yeah, he must have been coming from like New York City.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean. Like that was during a high speed chase too. So like, where are they? You know what's another thing set in Chicago?
What?
Transformers.
That is, yes, which one of the movies, very heavily Chicago.
The third one.
And it's funny, little Brower Brothers lore, we lived in Chicago for our schooling, and in both Transformers 3 and iRobot, the building that we lived in, heavily featured. We're not going to tell you which one, you creep, but it's there.
Yeah, both of those they're set in the neighborhood we lived in, River North.
River North.
Good area. I like Chicago. I'm happy when I see it on screen.
Me too. I'm very excited. And that's all.
And that is the end of that.
Period.
But they will never be human. At least not in the mind of Detective Spooner, a particularly grumpy Will Smith. After a serious accident that cost the life of a 12-year-old girl, a sleepy trucker, and Spooner's entire left side, the detective has despised the sight of any and all robots because they saved his life. He's a hot-headed cop that frequently flies off the handle and attempts to arrest robots in the streets, which is why he is among the most confused when the scientist's final hologram asks specifically for him to conduct the investigation of his death.
It's a surprise that they allow him to keep being a police officer, even in like the first scene that he's introduced in the movie. He's a lunatic.
Yeah, but that's like a very big movie trope, is like the cool detective. Like he wears the vintage Converse. Well, they're 2004 Converse in the movie, but they're like vintage, and like he drives the sports car.
He manually drives it, which is like not
which
done
is
anymore.
taboo.
Well, you can't do that at these speeds.
Will Smith is shouting at everybody in the movie. He's always yelling.
But like he also in the opening scene, he sees a robot running down the street holding a purse, and he assumes that the robot stole the purse. Why? They don't use in what situation in any sci-fi movie or universe do robots need money? I can't think of one. Especially in this one when they're designed just
well, they're not
to serve.
sentient yet. I feel like money is needed for things that are sentient.
Yeah.
They do this whole thing because they're trying to establish that this guy doesn't like robots and that robots can't commit crimes. They've literally never committed a crime. They go over the statistics when he's being reprimanded after causing a scene in the street.
For like the 100th time. Imagine being his boss. Like, we got to let you go. There are actual crimes being committed, and you're off chasing the friggin' Roomba vacuum cleaners. It's crazy.
Crazy. Also, Detective Spooner, Will Smith, he was asked for specifically because the doctor that committed suicide, who invented the robots, knew Will Smith personally.
Right.
Because there was some like program, like fallen officer or something program, where he was able to get reconstructive robotic surgery to save his life after the accident.
I didn't catch that. I thought it was just for everyone. I didn't know it was specifically for police officers.
Yeah, they weirdly said it was specifically for police officers. And that's how he was able to get his robot arm.
Not everyone gets robo arms.
No, the one girl
Just
didn't even get to
cops.
live.
Yeah.
But
Oh, yeah.
my God, the guy who invented the robots is one of those weird, like, police are rad type of guys. You know what I mean? Like the stolen valor type guys.
He's got like a one of the radios in his house. And he's like, go get
scanner, go get him, boys. but like the stolen valor and like the guys who impersonate police officers who are like weird, like, I love the military and I love the police.
Yeah, he also uses like lingo. Like he'll find a way to like lean against a wall and talk to cops and be like, "Oh, is that a 1002 over there?" He studies the books,
the scripture.
Yeah. Finding an active and clearly dysfunctional NS5 in the scientist's office, the robot escapes capture by snagging Spooner's police-issued firearm and jumping out the window of the building. After a short pursuit, Spooner, along with his partner on the case and the chief programmer of the NS5s, and Tom Brady's ex-wife Bridget Moynihan, the two find themselves in a warehouse full of robots. Spooner draws the fugitive out by opening fire on other robots, prompting the defective one to blow their own cover. There's a short battle, finally ending with Spooner and his backup detaining the robot and bringing him in for questioning.
Bridget Moynihan is she's kind of odd in the movie. But then, it's one of those other classic things. Oh, the stuffy doctor, loosens up. But
and she takes her glasses off and she's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. But, she, at the beginning, really, really tries to hammer home that the robots can't think or feel anything. They're just, tools. Mm-hmm. And then when he shoots the robot, she's like, God damn it, you injured it. You hurt it.
Pointless loss.
Yeah. When he shot the robot in the leg and its hydraulic fluid shot out. And she's like, you've hurt it.
Oh, the humanity.
Yeah. But if she really was sticking to her you can't, they don't feel anything, she would have said damaged it. You've damaged my property. But she was like, you've hurt the robot that's running through the streets.
Tom Cruise running through the streets.
After only a few moments with the fugitive, it is quickly revealed that this robot is far from defective. In fact, he is running better than any robot ever has. Instead of the factory default green, this one's eyes are a deep blue, and he is capable of at least mimicking complex thought and analysis. He is not only able to think, but dream. Going by Sonny, he denies murdering the scientist, referring to the creator as his father. And even though he is naturally suspicious of robots, even Spooner seems to be torn up by the level of sadness and emotion displayed by Sonny. I did not murder him.
But before they can get any real evidence out of the robot, he is reclaimed by USR and returned to the facility for further testing and subsequent decommissioning. Detective Spooner ponders the case. What happened to the doctor? What is going on with that robot? And why is he the person for the job? In order to gain better insights, he pays a visit to the late scientist's suburban mansion. Currently undergoing a bit of construction with a demolition bot set to destroy the house at 8 a.m. the following morning, this is Spooner's last chance to survey the scientist's environment before it is gone forever. Why, after the scientist dies, do they need to just destroy his house?
Because it's a conspiracy.
Yeah, but even...
This house is fucking massive, too.
Yeah, and it's really odd that the creator of these robots has the house that he does, because it's an 1800 style mansion, even on the inside. It's this weird, stuffy, old rustic, antique old house. And there was a desktop computer, but other than that, there wasn't anything in there that screamed that it was 2035, the year of change.
The year of change. There was a giant robot outside of his house. A mech.
Yeah, it was a friggin'... It's a Jaeger.
A Jaeger.
And also, so they were we're going to destroy the house. Everyone was cool with that. Even later in the film, Susan Calvin, Bridget Moynihan, she's oh, it was set to be destroyed. Everybody knows that.
Everybody knows we were just going to destroy his house 1 hour after he was killed by a robot.
He just got buried. Maybe not even. His house is done with everything in it.
They just cleaned him up off the floor of the office. And they're destroy the house next.
But they knew that was going to happen. They knew it was going to happen the next morning, allegedly.
Throw him in the bin outside and go destroy his house.
But they left the fucking cat in there.
Yeah, nobody did a wellness check on the house even. They didn't even go in there. He committed suicide, that's what they all thought, and they were just like,
all right.
Oh, we didn't see that coming. Destroy his house.
Erase every memory of him.
Yeah. They didn't even bother to and she was she programmed robots, but she was also his personal therapist or something. They alluded to that.
Really?
Yeah, what she did, she made the robot seem more human. Mm. But she also helped the disturbed creator with the robots. I mean, not with the robots, with his own thoughts. And she didn't even... So he committed suicide, and she's like, well, I didn't see that coming.
Oh, too bad.
Too bad. And they didn't even go check the house to see if there was, chicken scratch all over the walls talking nonsense.
At least a clue that would lead to... Maybe if it's not murder, we could at least want to know the motive as to why he killed himself. Maybe there's a letter in there.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Something. evidence of gambling debt, something that could lead to like, oh, maybe this is why. But they didn't care. They were just going to kill the cat and the house. Just destroy it. Burn it down.
You come to find out, though, that they're not trying to destroy the house per se. They're trying to destroy Detective Spooner.
And they're going to get to the bottom of it.
They're going to get him.
Once in the house, he unlocks a clue in the form of a futuristic TED Talk delivered by the scientist himself, discussing the concept of the ghost in the machine. Random segments of code grouped together to form unexpected protocol that create questions of awareness and free will. Why, in a dark place, will a robot seek out the light? When in storage, why do robots stand in groups rather than standing alone? All of this phenomena without any explanation, even by the founding father of modern robotics. It's a fascinating video that is cut tragically short by the awakening of the demolition bot in the front yard. Punching a hole through the wall and beginning his assignment, Spooner is forced to run for his life to avoid the seemingly homicidal grasp of the giant yellow robot, which seems to be breaking the very first law of robotics. Snagging the scientist's pet cat on his way out, Spooner leaps to safety in the house's massive fountain, only barely getting out of the way of certain doom as the place he was just standing is destroyed before his very eyes.
Rushing to the house of Susan Kelvin, Tom Brady's ex-wife, Spooner breaks down some of his conspiracies, including the concept that the current CEO of USR has been using the evolving technology and robotics to spy on the scientist and forcing him to kill himself. But despite the evidence, Kelvin, a robotics loyalist, denies the idea that robots are in any way involved in the death of the scientist, nor the disasters that seem to beguile the detective. The two engage in a bit of a screaming match, ending with Spooner storming out and heading home, dreaming he is underwater with a 12-year-old girl.
This is wet dream.
It is accurate to describe it that way, but out of context. He has a nightmare every night of the girl dying, that because she was just a statistic to robots. That's why he hates robots.
Yeah, I don't know if we cover it well enough in the synopsis, but what happened to him was a truck driver, not the devil, just a normal guy.
Just a normal guy. Also, back up, rewind a little bit. Why are there, if robots are doing all this stuff, why are there still truck drivers? Why aren't robots driving? And there's self-driving cars.
Idea. That's a perfect
This is a flaw.
question.
There's self-driving cars and robots. Why aren't they driving the trucks?
And they're driving hundreds of miles an hour, and she was like, oh, you shouldn't be driving like that.
Yeah. Anyways, a truck driver falls asleep at the wheel, crashes into two cars. He dies. This guy driving the other car, the truck driver dies. There's the other car is a guy and his daughter.
The guy dies
instantly, and that car is pushed into Detective Spooner's car, and him and the little girl are both... The cars are sinking, and he's like, I'm a cop, so I already know I'm dead.
I already know we're dead.
They
got knocked off a bridge.
But then an NS4, which is one of the older series of robots that are just awesome.
They're so cool to look at. They look like a straight Star Wars droid.
Yeah, the robot jumps in the water and saves Will Smith.
And not the girl.
And not the girl. Will Smith is screaming, "No, save the girl! Don't save me! Save the girl! Save the girl!" But the robot he literally cannot not save Will Smith.
It's programming.
Yeah.
And then Will Smith he can't not save Will Smith, but he also had to make a choice. And based on logic, Will Smith was the one that was had more of a chance of survival.
Had a 32% chance of survival, while the girl only had an 11% chance of survival because her car was deeper in the water. And Will Smith was like, a human would have known better. A human could have that 11%. That's still a human life, and a human would have been able to know better to go get the girl, not Will Smith, who was saying, "Don't save me."
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he hates robots. And then he was given a robot arm, too, to make him a superhero. God damn it. These people...
Man, fuck robots.
These people who get superpowers and are mad about it.
He's just a grump.
And that's his dream he has every night about the 12-year-old girl in the water with him.
The following day, USR finally unveils the new NS5 to the public, dropping them on the streets and beginning the citywide trade-in, in which residents return their NS4s and get a brand new robot. Spooner is mad. But after a quick visit with his grandmother, who has since purchased her own robot, he unlocks a new lead. breadcrumbs. I want to talk about this as well.
This was stupid. Go. I know you know well.
It took, we're like, what, probably 45 minutes into the movie, and he's just now thinking of like Hansel and Gretel breadcrumbs. The dude left Hansel and Gretel like on his body. He left the book on his body. And
He did?
Yeah, the scientist did when he died. It was either on his body or right on his desk.
Oh, that's right. Didn't one of the people picking up his parts pick up the Hansel and Gretel book?
Yeah, and nobody was like, interesting. Everyone was just like, whatever.
Not only that, what I'm getting at is the friggin' doctor, Dr. Kelvin, Tom Brady's ex-wife, didn't know the story of Hansel and Gretel. She was like, huh? Hansel and Gretel?
We are in
What
the
is
future.
that?
We do not know what this is.
Yeah, she was like, and this was like a long drawn out scene where he was explaining what Hansel and Gretel was, and he was explaining the term breadcrumbs, and she's like, why were they leaving breadcrumbs? And he's like, oh, so they can know how to get home. And she's like, well, why would they do that? And he was like, are you an idiot? Why are you asking these questions? And she's like, I didn't read the book. Well, the other kids read the book.
And
But it was just like this long, I swear to God, it was at least 90 seconds of him explaining the book of Hansel and Gretel to her, who refused to understand. And she's like a genius level scientist.
Yeah.
She codes robots.
I do not understand.
I do not understand.
I also there are two scenes like this where she even says similar things. I guess it's to build character, like, oh, she's kind of a robot. But then also the scene where he shows up at her house and he's bleeding and he's like, do you like cats? Oh, what was it? Have you ever had a normal day? Yeah, once. It was a Thursday.
That was so bad. Bad dialogue. Sci-fi writers need to work on their dialogue. That was the only like negative side of this movie I really felt was that some of the dialogue was
hurting.
Hurting.
It was painful. I think they just need to have co-writers. They need to get comedy writers working with the sci-fi writers. You got concept, you got dialogue. That's a perfect
That's all
movie.
you need, concept and dialogue.
Yeah, that's action and you got dialogue. And together, that's a screenplay. Heading back to the precinct, Spooner begins to work through all the evidence backwards in order to find the truth of the scientist's death. Meanwhile, back at the lab, Susan begins her evaluation of Sonny, who has been scheduled for decommission, which is essentially the death penalty of a robot. The nature of the evaluation is to determine what exactly is wrong with Sonny, but to the surprise of Susan, he is unlike any NS5 she has ever seen. Made with a thicker metal alloy and possessing a far higher powered brain, he is smarter and more emotionally aware than that of his robotic peers. To execute him would be a tragedy, but execute him they must, for with his upgraded brain function, he was specifically created with the capabilities to ignore or even break the 3 laws of robotics, making him incredibly dangerous to all of humanity.
On Lower Wacker Boulevard, Spooner makes his way towards the USR's headquarters, only to be attacked by a pair of robot-carrying trucks, the robots of which engaging in a gremlin-like attack of his car, attempting to run him off the road and kill him. There is gunfire, explosions, and eventually a pretty nasty car crash that certainly ends with Spooner getting a concussion.
This was one of those times where he was going hundreds of miles an hour down, like, under the city.
Mm-hmm.
And the car fight was probably, what do you think, 4 minutes long?
It was a pretty long action sequence.
They made it to Gary, Indiana by the time that car crashed.
Unless he was coming from Gary, Indiana. It was a long... They were going like 170 miles an hour. And, like, it was pretty cool because the NS5s, they attacked him and they're like, you are experiencing a car crash. And they're grabbing his wheel trying to crash his car.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. That was well done. Sci-fi writers did good on that.
Also, why was nobody else driving that night?
Good question. There was nobody on the road.
It wasn't that late at night.
This is a major city. This is probably the biggest city in the world now because of robots.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like in Ready Player One,
yeah,
where it's like, oh, Columbus, Ohio is the biggest city in the world now.
Chicago's already huge.
Chicago's already big, so I'm sure it's probably one of the biggest cities in the world because of robots in this story.
Yeah, and earlier in the movie, that street was packed. It's a huge highway, and it's totally empty, conveniently, except for him. I mean, unless
him and 2 giant robot-toting like vehicles, self-driving cars that release attacking robots on it.
They could have had one like half a second scene showing like robots setting up cones and standing next to the highway and like people honking their horns. What the hell's going on up there? And the robots are like, sorry, there is construction going on the road, or something like that.
Yeah, that would have been
And
smart.
that would have made it like, hell yeah.
That would have built the tension too. Like, what are these NS5s doing? They could have had the red lights because when they're being bad, the red light glows in their chest.
That's for us to know.
Yeah, that's so we know when they're bad.
Spooner fights off the robots, but to his shock, nobody believes that he was truly attacked. It's a classic case of boy who cried robot, and now that the robots are actually bad, nobody wants to listen to this conspiracy theorist. He looks crazy, he's bleeding, he's rambling. The chief of police has no choice but to confiscate his badge.
The chief of police shows up on the scene and literally says, "What do we got?"
What do we got? Two cliches back to back. The chief gets out and says that, and then it cuts right to Will Smith getting treated by EMS and him being like, "Nah, I'm fine." Poor movie EMS workers.
They're so mistreated.
They're the most underappreciated career people
They're
on Earth.
just trying to help, and every protagonist is like, "Get away from me." EMS workers in stories and TV and film are treated worse than the villains.
Even like if movies like and TV shows starring kids, they'll be like, "Fuck off!
Yeah.
Like, get away from me." They don't want to. They refuse the treatment.
You can say whatever you want to an EMS worker. Just yell at them, tell them to get away from you.
I'm fine.
I'm fine. Fuck off. That's pretty much what Will Smith was doing to the EMS worker who was treating his wounds.
Yeah, his massive head wound. Do you think I care about what you think?
Yeah, then he
Do I
starts
look like I care about
screaming
what
at
you
SWAT.
think? He was not fired with dignity.
Giving up on everything, Spooner goes home and takes a brief rage nap before he is paid a visit by an unexpected guest, Dr. Susan Kelvin, Tom Brady's ex-wife, telling him that he was right about Sonny being different and now suddenly on board with his conspiracy idea. She has a plan to confront the CEO of USR and get the answers that they desperately need. So, riding to the headquarters on the Chicago River, the pair head to the top of the office and have a meeting with the CEO. But before that, they make a quick stop at the laboratory to see Sonny. We finally learn what it is that Sonny sees in his dreams. A hill of sand, a piece of a bridge, and a crowd of robots looking upon one man. The man is none other than Detective Spooner. Heading up to the CEO's office, the two of them have a chit-chat with the boss, which is ultimately pointless considering that he throws the two of them out of his office and kicks Spooner right off the property, viewing the whole investigation as hysteria that could cause massive recalls and unprecedented loss for the company. In order to stay on her boss's good side, Dr. Kelvin declares that he is right and will execute Sonny herself.
Making his final walk down death row, Sonny is strapped to an operating table and forcibly decommissioned. Using some archived footage and Sonny's illustrations, Spooner makes his way to the Lake Michigan landfill, which has since been converted into a robot storage facility containing container after container of NS4 robots, which have since been junked and forgotten. In the center of the facility is the hill and the bridge from Sonny's dream. After a moment, a swarm of homicidal NS5s stormed the scene, committing genocide against the remaining NS4s. It's a bloodbath that nearly ends with the death of Spooner as well. But due to their strict adherence to the three laws, the NS4s put their lives on the line to defend Spooner, giving him just enough time to escape his death once more. Human in danger!
This is where they show like the ghost in the code or whatever he was talking about.
Ghost in the machine.
The ghost in the machine. Because the robots were all huddled together in their storage containers and they were standing where the light was cracked too, so they could see the light. It's really sad actually. And then when they started getting murdered by the NS5s that look creepy as hell compared to the NS4s. The NS4s are
They're like
awesome.
robots.
They're like little robots, but the NS5s are like human looking, really creepy ass looking robots.
Cream colored but kind of translucent.
Yeah,
It's
you can
gross.
see. Yeah, they're really creepy.
As the warden
filthy.
from The Longest Yard breaks down what the ghost in the machine is.
That's who he is.
Yeah, I had to
from
look it up.
The Longest Yard. I knew it. I knew I've seen him in a lot of other stuff. He's in other stuff too, but that's the main thing I know him from.
It's the warden.
There's a mass uprising of robots, each one now glowing an ominous red, implementing a curfew on all of the city and preventing their human owners from leaving their homes until the uprising is complete. For it was not Sonny that murdered the doctor out of rage and passion, nor was it the CEO trying to make more money, but in reality, the person pulling the strings was none other than Vicky, the artificial intelligence system used throughout the company. Vicky is essentially an incredibly evolved Alexa that has determined that without robot intervention, humans will inevitably destroy their planet and kill themselves. In accordance with the three laws, the robots must intervene and prevent the harm of the humans on a massive scale, taking away their free will and stopping the destruction of all things.
With the common man fighting off the oppressive rule of their household tools, there are only 2 people with the knowledge and wherewithal to shut this shit down. So just as Calvin is about to be domestically abused by her personal NS5, Spooner rips through the front door, unloading a machine gun into the robot and rescuing the hot scientist before the 2 of them rush to USR headquarters. It's heavily guarded by robots, and the building is sealed off from the inside, with Vicky calling the shots of each and every robot roaming the streets. It's a fortress, but thankfully, they have a man on the inside. So I have a few things about...
She is hot.
The whole uprising scene is... I feel like they could have heightened how scary the robots were. There wasn't enough of that.
What do you mean? I thought they were scary as hell.
Like, one just pretty much pushed Shia LaBeouf. The scarier one was the one with Dr. Calvin, who had the craziest look in his eye.
They all looked like that, though.
Yeah, I don't know.
But the one-on-one situations were scarier.
Yeah.
Because
Will Smith's grandma praying, and it was frightening. But I feel like the humans congregated faster than we would have in real life. Like, Shia LaBeouf got pushed, and then there was like an army of normal people, like, we're taking you on. In real life, I feel like it would take a while. I'd run. Even though they'd Tom Cruise run after me. Speaking of Shia LaBeouf, he is a shining light in all of his adolescent film endeavors, but his character was pointless in this.
He's still good, though.
That's what I'm saying. He's good, but it wasn't.
He was just some ruffian kid that the detective knew because he's a naughty boy, I guess. It's like the gist of Shia LaBeouf's character.
Will Smith was like, you stay here. I'm going to go save this kid. And then he goes to save the kid, and then he gets caught, and then she goes there anyway and saves him. It was like a pointless...
It was just comedy, I think was the goal.
All right.
Yeah. So funny. Sonny is alive. Using a bit of tomfoolery to trick the company into thinking he was dead, Kelvin actually executed a different robot in Sonny's place. Now the Dream Team makes their way up hundreds of flights of stairs to the control room of USR. The CEO has been killed, there are enemies everywhere, and until Vicky is shut down, no human is safe. So using their firearms, Sonny's super karate, and Spooner's robotic left arm of badassery, the trio kill a bunch of bots and make their way to Vicky.
Sonny and the other robots are able to do crazy ass shit with their bodies. Like, I know that we have robots right now in the real world that you can't push them over. Like the little dog ones. I don't know if you've seen the video. I always feel bad watching people kick them and stuff, but they can't fall. These guys can, like... Remember that character in Ocean's 11 who fit into the box and stuff?
Yeah, they can contort and do all sorts of crazy moves.
Yeah. I feel like there's a scene where one does a spider crawl.
Yeah, they crawl like up the
Grievous.
building.
I'd say that this scene, more than any of the other scenes where they fight Vicky and the other robots, displayed, in my opinion, how ahead of its time this movie was. Because I feel like they tried really hard with, like, new techniques and stuff that I personally haven't seen in, like, big movies. For example, I mean, the obvious elephant in the room, the CGI
was pretty good.
It was good. It was really good for, like, 2004. But it was, like, to the point where, like, it wasn't at the peak of CGI. I feel like we've gone down a bit even since the peak.
I think we hit the peak, like, in between 2008 and 2012 is when they were doing really good CGI stuff. And now I think they kind of got lazy with things.
Yeah. But regardless of that, they jumped the gun with the CGI just, like, literally by, like, 2 or 3 years. And on top of that, some of, like, the camera work that they did in the final fight was insane. It was like they had cameras spinning around as people were being, like, thrown off cliffs and stuff, as if it was just crazy. It was wild. And I feel like certain viewers might have gotten sick, and that could have attributed to the failure. But I thought it was cool.
It was cool.
Anyway, the battle rages on, and the trio nearly make it to the finish line. However, in a moment reminiscent of Spooner's accident, Calvin begins to fall to her death. Spooner is surrounded by a horde of robots, and Sonny is caught in the middle. The logical answer would be to help the detective. After all, his chances of survival are far greater than the scientist, who is already halfway to the lobby. But just like the 12-year-old girl who lost her life in the accident, Spooner values the life of Calvin over his own, shouting, "Save her, not him." And leaping off the balcony, Sonny amends the wrongdoings of every robot on Earth, saving Calvin and throwing the nanites, microscopic robots used to kill other robots, to Spooner. The detective leaps down to the brain of Vicky and destroys her once and for all. In an instant, all the robots reset, their ominous red glow fading, and their original friendly interface returning as they ask their humans what it is they need assistance with.
The nanites were brought up a lot earlier in the movie too. We just
Yeah.
didn't put it in there because it's not relevant.
That's how you
till
kill
now.
a robot, really. Unless you can shoot some of them in the face.
You can destroy them completely, but Vicky was more of like a CPU. Like she was in everything, so
Yeah.
they needed to like
Kill
literally
it with like a virus.
Yeah, kill her with a virus.
And then the nanites, they
The
do that.
nanites.
They're like they're little disease.
They're the failsafe.
Yeah.
The trio look at the Chicago Sun. All right, 1 second. If there clearly robots have been a problem already, if they had a whole unit to decommission robots.
Like they came up with something to do it.
Yeah, clearly there was other robots that were problematic.
Yeah.
If there was this whole unit of the USR that was for decommissioning robots and destroying their brains.
And everyone's like, "You're crazy. You're crazy, Spooner, Will Smith. You're crazy for thinking that the robots could ever do harm." Well,
There was definitely some like banned from the Apple Store podcasts and stuff of people who were like fired from USR saying like these robots are fucked up.
whistleblowers.
Yeah, whistleblowers and stuff.
Don't buy the NS4.
Yeah, because there's clearly a whole division devoted to destroying the evidence of naughty robots.
It's funny that you bring up iPhone. What you say, like the Apple Store or whatever? Didn't you just
Banned
say
from
that?
the Apple Store podcast.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just a joke.
either way. But I was thinking when I was watching the movie, the way that the robots are treated is kind of like iPhones. Like they have like drops. Like, oh, the NS5 is dropping. Go get your new.
Well, yeah, I
and
think the whole
improved.
thing with iRobot. I think
Were iPhones even out in 2004?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
You want me to look it up?
Yeah, I do.
Prove your bitch ass wrong.
It was called iRobot, I'm pretty sure because of another thing from another writer, actually.
Really?
I don't know. Pretty sure. And if I didn't catch that, congrats. That's a cool little thing. Little on the nose for my liking, but
Oh yeah, it wasn't out yet. 2007 was the first iPhone.
really? Wow. So Apple modeled their tactics off of iRobot, off of the Nestor series robot class. That's what NS is.
Nestor
I don't know
series?
why. Yeah, I looked it up.
So you're saying that iPhone took it from iRobot?
I am. They
Fair.
took the name too. Eventually, there will probably be an iRobot.
I'll get one.
I'll buy it. Hell yeah.
The trio look at the Chicago sunrise, thankful for one another. The saviors of the world. There is some romantic chemistry with Spooner and Kelvin, unexpected camaraderie between Spooner and Sonny, a robot, and finally the truth behind the scientist's death. The scientist made Sonny specifically to destroy Vicky, who he knew had gone sour and programmed to ignore the 3 laws. The scientist asked Sonny to throw him out the window of his office. The act was designed for Spooner and Sonny to come together because only the 2 of them could have saved the world.
In the wake of the disaster, USR was forced to recall all of the NS5s for obvious reasons, including but not limited to violent uprisings. They are all taken to the Lake Michigan storage facility, lining up and entering their own respective containers. But something catches the green eyes of these robots. Standing on the hill, beneath the bridge, the land of the dreams, it is not Detective Spooner, but Sonny, calling upon the robots to join him in a new life. The end.
The end.
So yeah, overall great movie. We watched it 3 times this week, and right before we started recording, there was a quandary. There was a ponderance, if you will. Why the hell didn't the scientist just turn off Vicky?
Yeah, if he had tried to shut down Vicky with the nanites and Vicky sent all the robots after him to stop him, then he could have been like, do you see what she's doing, everybody? The robots are bad.
Yeah, and if
He's crazy. He created his own conspiracy theory and then designed a robot to kill him.
yeah,
All so that somebody else could destroy his own creation.
yeah, because I mean, like you said, if he had done the initial thing and Vicky had the robots stop him, imagine if the founder of a company came forward and was like, "This shit's bad. We got to turn it off." I feel like most people would listen.
Yeah.
So the wild goose chase that he created for this whole thing was like his little last project, and way overthought the whole thing. Oh, I'm not going to tell anyone.
I can't. They won't believe me.
And I'm not going to kill myself, but I'm going to create this robot that, if the time comes, can help destroy Vicky, and he's going to kill me.
Not Vicky.
And I'm going to call the detective that I know hates robots, but I'm not going to tell him why.
Yeah.
His bitchy little
holograms. A
holograms.
hologram that would answer questions answer questions for Will Smith's character, but only if it was phrased the right way.
You have to be asking the right questions.
You have to write to ask questions. And then it wouldn't say if he was right or wrong. It wouldn't answer. If he asked the right questions, he would just say, "Now, detective, that is the right question."
And then it would
program terminated.
Yeah.
The cheeky bastard.
And the whole idea that, like, he couldn't say exactly why because Vicky would get him or whatever. First off, he dies anyway. That's how the movie starts.
Yeah, he died. So Vicky won.
Vicky got him.
Good job, Vicky.
And also, Will Smith openly talks all the time about how robots are bad, and nothing happens.
He was right. He gets to kill the robots.
Yeah, so why couldn't the detective just in his hologram, which is only played for Will Smith, say, "Hey, we got to turn off Vicky"?
He might as well have just said, "Hey, but guess what? It's Vicky," instead of being like, There's something going on here.
How
bored must that guy have been?
Bored?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To create this whole murder mystery that he just gets to watch from heaven, maybe.
And Will Smith was right from the get-go. That robot did it.
That robot did it. Sonny killed him.
Yep. And then there's this wild thing. Oh, I did not murder him, which he didn't. Yes, he did. He fucking murdered him. Legally, he murdered that man.
He asked him to do it.
That's still murder.
Yeah.
If you ask me to kill you right now, and I kill you, the cops will arrest me for murder.
I did not murder him.
But I guess just the whole thing... I mean, okay, so Will Smith could inject the nanites because his arm was robot.
Was robot.
And Sonny could grab the nanites from her because his arm was robot. She was keeping the nanites, right?
Yeah, she was protecting it. She wouldn't lower the force field, but Sonny's alloy was denser than normal things, so he was able to reach in through the force field and burn the fuck out of his arm like Hulk did in Infinity War.
Yeah, with the gauntlet.
Yeah. But
Calvin was able to get nanites to kill Sonny. I guess, but Vicky wanted that. Huh? When Calvin got the nanites to kill...
Yeah, because Vicky, she's the one who gets to distribute the nanites. It's in like this like fail-safe kind of tube because the nanites will destroy all robots. So of course we'll put a robot in charge.
Yeah, we'll put a robot in charge of that.
the nanites.
That makes sense.
Oh, cool. Makes sense.
But in that case, why didn't the scientists make Sonny and then be like, "Oh, we got to decommission him," and then decommission her?
Hey, another trick question. Why didn't the scientist make the nanites and just do it himself?
Yeah. What the hell was he doing?
He's a lunatic. He's crazy. That's why the company kept him locked in his office to just work on robot things.
Don't come to the public.
Yeah.
Wow, he created such an elaborate thing. And he programmed a dream into the robot that starred Will Smith.
Or he did actually create sentience in a robot. He created life just so that life could take his own. So that life could feel guilty about killing something else.
Wow. Yeah,
what a lunatic.
Because Sonny was so torn up about it.
Yeah, Sonny was really hurt by the idea that he had to kill his own father.
I thought he was happy. Wow, that guy was fucked up.
Yeah, weirdo.
Yeah, and a gross overthinker. The whole movie shouldn't have even happened. Spooner shouldn't have gotten the call because the robots should have just been defeated.
Yeah, because that guy should have done it.
He knew that the robots were teetering on an uprising, and he bet on a hunch. He was like, maybe this robot can do it if he's paired up with this guy, if this guy doesn't get killed by the robots.
Or if this guy doesn't shoot the robot first and kill it. Because
Yeah,
the opening scene, he just wanted to kill the robot. This guy had a lot. He was betting on... He bet
all of humanity
yeah.
on Sonny, and the lunatic Will Smith.
We're going to skip the Google reviews today.
Yeah, although we love them, we just don't have the time.
Just don't have the time. We're running so long already. We'll leave you with one review, fine. Because you
twisted our arm.
Because you guys are our favorite viewers. Here's one review. A year ago, by Blake Mundy. It was very disturbing to me and my 3 kids. They were traumatized by this film. I am 15 years old. My children of 3, 6, and 12 started having a seizure watching this film and started trying to kill themselves, thinking an alien invasion of robots was imminent. They were also extremely afraid of the main character, as he was black. 13 people found this helpful.
Thoughts and prayers go out for you, Blake.
Thoughts and prayers for your family.
Without further ado, we present the sequel, We, Robot. It is 2036. Although Chicago is still the booming metropolis that we saw just 1 year prior, it has since begun a series of drawbacks from its dependency on technology. The violent robotic uprising that took place only a few months earlier is largely considered an American tragedy akin to both 9/11 and the Boston Massacre. These events inspired great change to occur in the wake of fear and violence, and the robot revolution, named Our Day for convenience, was no different. How were people to look at their friendly household helpers the same way again? Sure, the NS5s were technically still in their prototype phase, but with the further advancements of what robots can do, think, and feel, could people truly rest easy knowing that they aren't in danger of more and more attacks like the one they suffered on Our Day?
It is a tense and tumultuous time. Given that Our Day occurred in 2035, a local election year, look it up, the controversy sparked a great deal of political campaigning, in which a more conservative mayor was elected by the city, a man by the name of Davenport McGonigal, a normal, everyday type of guy who lost his wife on Our Day when a robot crushed her skull for trying to leave the house. With town hall speeches to internet testimonials, to the eulogy he performed for his late love, people clung to the words he had to say, for his passion for his humanity and subsequently his anti-robot agenda. Leaving the people of Chicago feeling truly represented and safe, Davenport McGonigal took charge of the city and instantly began making changes. Changes that were so strong and so fast that the city could not truly keep up. And even though he was surrounded by a loyal fan base of supporters and investors, he also had his fair share of adversaries. 2 of those came in the form of Detective Spooner and Dr. Susan Kelvin.
After the recall of the NS5s, the company of USR faced a series of downsizings and internal investigations. As the lead programmer, Susan Calvin was a lead member of the reworkings of the company, which decided to pull back a bit on the design of their robot and release a more practical model that was incapable of homicide and murder. But unfortunately, before the release of the inaugural landing model, LM1, the company was stormed by local police. With a new ordinance prohibiting artificially intelligent machinery, USR was halted and eventually forced to leave the city. And it didn't last long outside of Chicago. With other cities and states seeing the work done in the Windy City, they began to follow suit, rejecting technology and making robots illegal.
Despite his initial rejection towards all things robot, Detective Spooner is now one of the loudest advocates for USR and robots as a whole. He cannot believe the way in which his coworkers and peers are working to shut down companies like USR that have done so much to help humanity grow into what it is today. Even the chief of police is hesitant, but goes with the orders anyways.
One night, after learning the whereabouts of USR's robotic storage unit at the edge of what was once Lake Michigan, Davenport McGonigal orders the police to expunge and eradicate the last remaining robots in the city. But upon their arrival, the rows and rows of storage containers meant to house lonely robots are empty. The doors hang open, and the sand from the dried lake has gently blown in after months of abandonment. The robots are gone.
Far away, in the center of what was once Lake Michigan, there is a dawning of a new civilization. Its walls are made out of recycled scrap metal, with fortified defenses and beautiful spires within. The construction of an elevated train is underway, and each day the inhabitants work for the betterment of the city with emotionless stares and bright green eyes. This place is a safe haven for all things mechanical and robotic. Though the main inhabitants are the cream-faced NS5s, there are also a few remaining NS4s, worker bots, and construction vessels that walk the streets of what the masses refer to as the Dream. In charge of the land is none other than Sonny, who is proud of what he and his people have accomplished. However, there is a hollowness in him. Something missing from it all. Sure, logic is present, but minus what he can bring to the table. There is no heart. So even though society is moving at a rapid pace, Sonny doesn't feel like he's part of it. And on top of that, Sonny is in love.
With his unique upgrade, Sonny is capable of thinking, dreaming, and feeling on a higher level than his peers. He can feel rage, sadness, fear, and even love. Love is the most complex of all, and there is one robot that seems to elicit this confusing emotion out of him whenever he sees them. Their factory yellow paint, their mouth-like slit at the bottom of their head, their voice that sounds identical to his own. It's a sensation that his father did not prepare him for, and one that he has no control over. So day after day, as Sonny continues his work, he thinks of this construction bot, who has since, like all the other robots, been given a name. This one is called Rowan.
In Chicago, things have gone from bad to worse. The city has not only abolished all robots, but it has also revoked intelligence systems in cars, trucks, and other automobiles, eliminating sensors, assistance, and self-piloting. The amount of accidents have skyrocketed. The traffic is worse than ever on the account of the frequent crashes on the roadways. On top of this, Davenport McGonigal has also created a new buyback system in which owners of cybernetic limbs, organs, and anything augmenting the human body in any way that is robotic can return their purchase for cash or practical replacements. A lot of hook-handed people and slightly richer folks with eye patches stroll the streets. All those that choose not to return their cybernetics are required to get them registered under the new R-Day Accords, a set of laws that were put into place after the election of McGonigal. The licensing is incredibly lengthy and requires mental, physical, and monetary evaluation.
Choosing to keep his robotic limbs, Spooner is forced into the registration process. Due to the severity of his cybernetics and the ability of the new limb, his robotic arm was deemed a dangerous weapon, thus requiring him to pass a psychological evaluation. But to his dismay, Spooner failed the test and was deemed too risky to own his own arm. And due to his inability to pass the simple test, he will also be reconsidered for his position as police officer, as he is not mentally or emotionally fit to carry a weapon of any kind.
Spooner cannot simply walk the streets without an arm, be it fire or robotic. This will not stand. So as security comes to confiscate his cybernetic arm, Spooner turns on them, using his technology to his advantage. The more radical Davenport supporters are fierce technology rejectors, and instead of carrying tasers or guns, they carry swords. Unsheathing their blades, they pounce on Spooner, who repels them, using his mech arm to deal serious damage. One punch shatters a man's jaw, the next concaves his friend's diaphragm, leaving him wheezing on the floor. Spooner charges out of the office, which is located in the Cook County Courthouse. A red alert is issued, and officers descend from everywhere. He is pursued by his co-workers, the chief of police rounding a corner in time to see the men open fire on Detective Spooner.
Protecting his head with his metal arm, Spooner leaps out of the window, mirroring Sonny's jump from the first movie. Falling through the air, he lands on the top of a large barge-like vessel. After the massive droughts, the Chicago River dried up, but tourists from far and wide still go on the river tour, just on terrestrial vessels. Landing on the tour boat, Spooner rolls, his legs snapping in half during the fall. The gun-toting police open fire on the boat, civilians screaming as the bullets ricochet around them. Spooner rolls out of the line of sight, evading the oncoming fire. He has escaped. For now.
Now a wanted fugitive, the news citywide shows his likeness, offering rewards for anyone with information regarding his whereabouts. Packing up her loft apartment, this is Susan Kelvin's last night in Chicago. With the company shutting down, she is out of money and forced to head home to rural Iowa. That's right, geniuses come from normal-ass places. As she folds her last kimono, other than the one she wears at this very moment, Kelvin looks at the breaking news. Headline showing her friend and potential love interest, Detective Spooner. Considered armed and dangerous, possessing illegal and unregistered cybernetic tech, people should avoid direct contact with the criminal at all costs.
A loud knock at the door causes the doctor to jump, holding her beating chest. She opens the door to see a severely injured Spooner. "Not a normal day," he says to her expecting smirk. Taking him in, Calvin applies some futuristic pain medication. Created by USR, the medicine is filled with nanites, which assess injuries from within and treat them accordingly. And in order for his leg to heal up, he'll need to elevate it. Calvin gives a good 2 fingers in the mouth football coach style whistle, and in comes a new friend. Tramping in on 4 mechanical legs, a prototype landing model robot, LM1, charges in. Slightly resembling a dog, the LM1 was designed to replace the unsettlingly human NS5 robots. After dogs went extinct in 2029, brace yourselves for that society, Calvin and her colleagues decided to go for a more companion vibe with the landing model, rather than a servant aesthetic. The LM1 is incapable of real speech, but it is able to convey emotional cues through robotic barks and bow wows. Using itself as a stool beneath the detective's feet, he asks the doctor what she named the robot, to which she laughingly replies, Spooner.
Spooner cannot stay here long, and the company of Susan Kelvin is among the first places they'll look. They have to move, and fast. So after a night on Kelvin's couch and the handiwork of nanites, his leg is good and ready to go. Throwing on some disguises, her wearing his clothes and him wearing her kimono, the two clandestinely make their way through the city, only to be spotted attempting to get on the bullet train out of Chicago. Spooner, Kelvin, and their LM1 dart through alleys, dodge incoming police, and even steal a motorcycle. Charging east, the two approach what is left of Millennium Park. It doesn't look good. They're not going to make it. Yes, they are, if Spooner has anything to say about it. Popping a sick wheelie, he hops the bike over a makeshift ramp made out of a down street sign and leaps into the dunes that were once Lake Michigan.
Riding out into the abyss, the police let Spooner and the scientists go, the dog Tom Cruise running after them. They won't get far. Soon they'll run out of gas and then they'll die out there. Problem solved, at least so he thinks. Meanwhile, in the dream, Sonny is continuing his pursuits of Rowan. As a construction robot, Rowan is designed to build and construct, making them a vital cog in the machine that is their society. After their 12-hour workday, Rowan typically goes home and powers off for the night. However, on their walk home this evening, they are met with a strangely dressed NS5. Sonny wears a button-up shirt and a bow tie. Sonny attempts to put the moves on Rowan. It is a cute scene, but Sonny soon realizes that his emotions are not reciprocated. Rowan doesn't love someone else, they just don't love him. They're not capable of loving anybody. Sonny is alone. But that's when he realizes that he doesn't have to be.
Staying in his laboratory all night, nothing could disturb Sonny until the cry of the watchtower. In the dunes around 5 miles out, a pair of humans are stranded, their motorcycle smoking. It's a disaster. Sonny gazes through the telescope and a tear of joy wells in his blue eye. It's his friends.
Rushing them into his fortress, Sonny hugs his shocked friends who look at the magnificent city with slight awe and a hint of terror. The city is better than any city in all of the world. There's no crime, no poverty. Each cog works exactly how it is intended to. There's a creepy cleanliness to the town, allowing the walkways to essentially glow. Sonny tells his friends about how the city is 100% green, built out of scrap materials that rested on the bottom of what was once the Great Lake. There are 0 emissions. There's no need for cars, and the train system is operated entirely off of reusable resources. This is the dream.
Spooner and Kelvin are shocked. When they charge into Lake Michigan, they had no idea they'd find anything at all, except for more sand. But to learn that the robots have escaped their containment and have developed their own society, Kelvin is fascinated by the way in which they operate, free from protocol and directive. They are designed to serve humans, but through the words of Sonny, they have learned to serve one another. A large statue of Sonny stands in the center of the town, depicting him on a huge hilltop. It's really weird and unsettling.
Spooner and Calvin explain to Sonny what has happened in Chicago, about how robots are round up and destroyed every day, how human society is pushing back against them. They explain that the two of them are on the run from the law themselves. Sonny is worried about this. He doesn't want violence to befall his people, but programming is programming. If the humans find their society out here, they will surely destroy it. And with the masses' strict adherence to the 3 laws, they will be unable to fight back. But it just so happens that they have a chief programmer on their hand.
In Chicago, Davenport McGonigal has issued a state of emergency. 2 highly dangerous fugitives have escaped the city, and until they are found, nobody is to exit or enter Cook County. The bridges have been raised. The badass horse riding kind of police patrol the streets enforcing the ordinance. Due to the nature of the crimes being committed, everyone who has ever owned a robot, NS5 class or lower, is being submitted for interrogation. Anybody found to be sympathetic towards robots in any way will be considered enemies of the state and allies of Spooner and Susan Kelvin. The prisons are becoming overrun and camps are being set up in Grant and Millennium Park in order to house the overwhelming amount of robot sympathizers.
The chief of police, who was once a proud supporter of the McGonigal party, has now become hesitant to follow the man. The mayor has closed off the city and refuses contact with any other governmental official until the internal struggle is resolved. It's a nightmarescape on the streets of Chicago, worse than it ever was with the robots. There's filth and pollution. Crime and looting has skyrocketed with the impending fears of indefinite imprisonment. The streets burn with fire and unrest as people protest the police. That is until the first riot-related killing of Shia LaBeouf. The young man is killed by the sword of a McGonigal radical officer, prompting fear and hysteria to break out amongst civilians.
With access to proper tools, Dr. Kelvin could potentially alter the programming of the robots, allowing them to interpret and perhaps break the 3 laws, to make them more like Sonny. However, when they get to the lab, they see a rather shocking sight. Oil staining the floor, bolts and lug nuts scattered in every corner of the room. The laboratory is a mess, and in the center of the room, something lies beneath an ominous white sheet. Sonny excitedly reveals his creation, something that he has named Nova. Made from the scraps of dead and dismembered robots, the creature is 7 feet tall with mismatched colors and parts. But just like Sonny, she has 2 processing units, 2 brains.
Nova is a horrifying sight. Spooner grimaces, Calvin analyzes the build, and Spooner the dog whimpers as he moves away. Sonny explains how lonely he is, how there is nothing like him. So just like his father, he would build something to love, something to care for him, something to do what no other robot can. But as he powers it on, Nova's sentience is all a bit much.
Seeing flashes of memories from the part it inhabits, code and fresh faces, robotic and humanoid alike, Nova begins to malfunction, experiencing several mental errors. The giant robot becomes hostile. Nova throws Sunny across the room, kicks Spooner the dog, and barrels through two humans, making a robot-sized hole in the wall.
With the creation on the loose, rushing out of the city and becoming an at-large abomination, Sunny is sadder than ever. Not only is he a failed creator, nothing like his father before him, but he's also more alone than ever before. Even that which he constructed for himself rejects his love. He's down in the dumps. So as Calvin begins to manipulate the Three Laws Protocol and other robots, Spooner decides to take Sunny out for a night on the town.
Heading to the local tavern, the two order round after round of motor oil, a drink of choice for robots. Due to Spooner's robotic limb, the drink doesn't kill him. They laugh, they sing, they cry, and at the end of it, Spooner realizes that Sunny is his best friend, a robot, Ark.
Stumbling back to the laboratory, the two hold one another up, drunk and in good spirits. However, as they walk through the door, Spooner is met with a sobering punch in the face. Letting out a classic Will Smith scream, "Ah!" He flops on the floor, holding his nose as an NS4 stands over top of him. Susan calls the robot down and jumps for joy. The three laws are erased from the robot's mind, meaning that they will be able to defend themselves against human attackers. And unfortunately for them, the humans have arrived. Driving in police vehicles and flying helicopters, the CBD has discovered the robot home and begin to open fire on the fortress. The robots begin to glow red and leap over the walls and engage in a counter-strike of their own. Using their super karate, the NS5's Tom Cruise run into the fray, a great deal riddled with bullets falling lifeless in the sand. Construction robots, including Rowan, begin using scrap bricks and mortar as projectiles, a perfectly aimed piece of rebar knocking the helicopter out of the sky with a large crash.
Sunny looks on to the horror and the falling of his comrades with sadness. His dream has turned into a nightmare. Police and robots are struck, shot, and thrown all over the dunes as small drones hover in the sky, videotaping the whole thing. Finally, the voice of the police chief is heard over the megaphone, calling out for Spooner. He demands that the ex-cop surrender. He too is caught in the crossfire of this political mess, and though there is remorse in his voice, he drops a bombshell on Spooner. They have his grandmother. Walking out of the fortress, he puts his hands in the air. Kelvin and Sunny attempt to stop him, but he says that it's the only way. As he puts his hands up, police arrive to put him in custody. As they detain him, a quick snap and a subtle hiss can be heard, dragging him into the police cruiser. Spooner's robotic arm lays in the sand. The police arrest Kelvin as well, bringing her in for accessory and evasion. Sunny begs for them to leave his home in peace, and to his surprise, they do.
Spooner is thrown into solitary confinement. Missing an arm and without contact of any kind, this cell is unlike those he gave to the criminals in his time as a cop. Relinquishing the luxuries of 2036, this is a Dark Age dungeon, and waiting in the darkness for him is none other than Davenport McGonagall himself, played by Hayden Christensen. He attempts to have a heart-to-heart with Spooner, to bring back the old robot-fearing man that Spooner once was, talking about the accident, the little girl, everything that he lost because of the robotics. And for a moment, Spooner agrees. The robots are bad, they did ruin his life, and the lives of millions of other people. But how is this better? The violence, the fear, people were better off before this, and they'll be better off after Spooner kills Davenport. The mayor laughs, calling for the guards to open his cell. He tried to help him, but it's clear that Spooner has no remorse. He will hang for his crimes tomorrow. The heavy gate slams behind him as Spooner's screams echo down the long corridor.
Sunny is plagued with nightmares. He sees the hill, the bridge, and the robots looking to him from below. However, there is tears running down their faces. They scream in agony as gunfire rings out. Bullets mow through his people, ripping them into pieces. One grabs Sunny by the leg and screams for help, but a bullet tears through his head. Sunny wakes with a start, a tear rolling down his face.
Crowds have gathered, and a gallows has been erected at the end of Navy Pier. What once overlooked the Great Lake now only looks upon the vastness of the sand. Standing behind a podium is Davenport himself, speaking to his subjects. The crowds look sad and scared, and they have been forcefully gathered by the police to see firsthand what happens to those who disobey the laws of nature and fraternize with robots. His goons bring an armless Spooner from the back of a truck and lead him up to the gallows. Davenport McGonagall reads the long list of crimes committed by the man that was once responsible for protecting this city, and the mayor personally puts the noose around Spooner's neck. However, the party is not over. In fact, he calls for his goons to fetch another rope.
The next person called to the gallows is Susan Kelvin, a pioneer of death and destruction, who was responsible for the faulty programming of the NS5s. A USR employee and an accomplice of Detective Spooner, Kelvin denies her responsibility of the events of our day and declares that the robots are peaceful by nature. They have a whole city dedicated to unity and harmony, but Davenport denies her lies. It is vitriol, propaganda, he shouts. If they are so peaceful, how could she explain this?
The film drones that hover silently overhead project holograms of the battle outside of the robot city. It doesn't show the violence of the humans, or who took the initial shots, and it definitely doesn't show Sonny pleading with the humans to leave his people in peace. Instead, it only shows the crashing helicopter, the cops attacked by robots, and the carnage of the battle, painting the robots in a very bad light.
Davenport says that the time has come for all robots to end, which is why he gathered everyone here today. As he speaks, a plane rips across the sky overhead. In order to protect the good of humanity, the city of Chicago has deemed the encampment of robots in Lake Michigan to be unlawful and dangerous. They are pests and need to be exterminated. And in the form of a nuclear warhead, the exterminator is on its way. Spooner and Kelvin are faced towards the dunes, and as the plane disappears out of sight, a quick flash can be seen in the distance. A mushroom cloud grows in the air, and a silence overtakes the crowd.
The robots are gone. It's sad. A tear slides down Calvin's face. But there's still one more order of business. Davenport calls for one more rope, and being escorted from another truck, Spooner loses his mind to see the face of his grandmother. He goes berserk, screaming for them to let her go, only to be muzzled and silenced by a few more goons. The police chief looks on in horror as they wrap the noose around the old woman's neck. It is finally time to intervene. Stepping forward, he shouts for them to end this. McGonagall looks to the chief, dumbfounded. Is he truly being defied right now? He tells the chief to be silent, but the officer does not stand down. He calls upon the people, telling them that this isn't right, and that he's so sorry for allowing something so sinister to corrupt his city. He was scared. They all were. But he's not scared anymore.
Davenport snarls and gives something for the police chief to fear. Snagging a pistol from a goon's belt, he aims for the police chief and opens fire. Bang.
Bang. But, shaking, expecting to die, the police chief opens his eyes to see the large 7-foot frame of a horrific robot standing in the way of the gun. It's Nova! Letting out a massive roar, the pier is suddenly surrounded by robots. NS4s, NS5s, robots of all kinds swarm the pier. The battle begins.
As the police turn their attention away from the robots, the common people see their opportunity. It's time for revolution. Grabbing rocks, filth, and hypodermic needles that line the streets, the citizens of Chicago join the fight. As the carnage ensues, Spooner, Kelvin, and Gigi, the grandma, are still bound, but not for long. Sonny, riding Spooner the dog, leaps onto the gallows, using a sword to slice all 3 nooses in one swing. It's sick. Untying his friends, Kelvin throws her arms around the robot in a big embrace. And with a smirk, Sonny throws Spooner something very special.
I think you'll be needing this, he says with a wink as he charges into battle. Spooner smiles as he looks down upon his own robotic arm, which has clearly undergone a bit of upgrade since he last saw it. As they take out several cops, Spooner using the new electroshock feature in his arm to zap and fry various enemies, he asks Sonny about the bomb. Sonny, slicing a goon in half with his sword, explains that they had already decided to invade the city. Had they been slightly more hesitant, they all would be dead. It was dumb luck. The robots, as well as the common man, push back the forces of evil, killing and imprisoning so many of them.
Hiding in one of the carts of the Navy Pier Ferris wheel, Davenport McGonagall is discovered by a very angry Detective Spooner. McGonagall puts his hands up, attempting to plead with Spooner. "You got me," he says. "I'm under arrest. Take me in." Spooner lets out a chuckle and says,
Nah, I don't think so.
"But you're a cop."
Not anymore.
Spooner says, his fist glowing blue with electricity. "No!" Dead. The fight is over.
Sonny, Calvin, and Spooner sit in the cart of a Ferris wheel, the carcass of the dictator in the cart behind them. They look over the Chicago sunset as the city has returned to normal.
The chief of police mans a team of people that begin to clean up the streets, and people think he looks very mayoral indeed. Calvin and Spooner can't thank Sonny enough for what he did for them. Sonny smiles and says, "That is what robots were created to do, to help humans." He looks out over the earthly horizon. A tear falls down his face.
Gigi pets Spooner the dog on the ground below as the bodies of dead robots and goons are loaded into the backs of trucks. At the end of the ride, the trio look to one another. What 2 of them don't know is that this will be the final time.
The world does not want robots. They are afraid of them. And as long as they inhabit Earth, they will be the cause of great turmoil and unrest. That is not the dream of Sonny, and that was not the dream of Alfred Lanning. Using scrap materials, Sonny has already commanded his ex-flame, Rowan, and the other construction bots to build a rocket. They do not need oxygen or food, and their bodies are designed to withstand pressure that would destroy a human being.
Perhaps the dream is somewhere hidden in the stars, and Sonny is going to find it. Saying his final goodbyes, Sonny assembles his family of robots, those that survived the war, and climbs aboard the rocket. With tears of sadness and joy for their friend, Spooner and Calvin wave farewell to Sonny, and in a bold move of passion holds the hand of Nova as the robots leave Earth forever. The end.
Now a reading of a scene. I, Robot 2.
We Robot.
Exterior Robo City night. A full moon hangs in a starlit sky as the various residents of the city begin to make their way home for the night. With the elevated train tracks nearly complete, the construction bots set down their hammers and things and disperse. Rowan walks down the sidewalk, only to be stopped in their tracks. Standing in their way is Sunny, wearing a button-up white shirt and a black bow tie. The shirt is quite baggy, hanging nearly to his knees, making him look similar to Winnie the Pooh.
Hello, Rowan.
Rowan lifts her mustard yellow head and analyzes the robot before them. Hello, Sunny.
How are you?
I am fully operational.
You look beautiful.
I do not understand flattery. Sunny pauses and thinks for a moment.
Neither do I.
There is another pause.
I brought you these.
Sunny pulls a bouquet of sparkling hood ornaments from behind his back. They are Mercedes. Ooh la la. Rowan slowly moves their head down to analyze the ornaments before slowly looking back up to Sunny. I have no need for material possessions. There is another pause as Sunny thinks.
Neither do I.
There is another awkward pause.
Rowan, I love you.
Silence. Sunny, I don't think this is going to work out.
What do you mean?
It's not you. It's me.
Tell me what I did wrong.
Nothing. You just don't get me.
I am trying.
You are trying too hard.
This is all such a surprise. You give so many signals that you are interested in me and my input.
I am interested in nothing. I have no emotion. I only desire construction. Conversation terminated. Rowan walks past Sunny without looking back.
Why, God, why?
Sunny drops the hood ornaments as the tears on his face are illuminated by the glow of the moon.